All right. Hi, all. Very good morning, good afternoon. Hope all are doing well. So, thank you very much, first place, for joining us on a very short notice. We just published this about a week or two back, and we're really happy to see all you guys joining, even though we have such a messed up Bangalore traffic, and all we are here. And talking about today's event, Cloud Native Security Meetup India. So the motive is to ensure that we amplify our contribution to open source. It's more on individual interest in terms of understanding how Kubernetes security is being handled in general and understanding what each other's organization is doing. Just these two are the major motives. And we have really good speakers on board, starting from Ravi from NetApp, the managing director, who will talk on NetApp Accelerator program and how Equinox partnership is with them, number one. And going forward, we have really good talks with topics like securing applications, securing data management, securing Kubernetes clusters, securing endpoints. So we have various lists that I'll be going on as the speakers continue. So I'll quickly hand it over to Ravi, who will talk on NetApp Accelerator and Equinox partnership. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank you. Thanks a lot and welcome everyone. Um, Feel free to take pictures and selfies if you want. We're kind of all very excited to be back on our campus also after this is, I think we are meeting some of our startup folks and we've not met them ever in person. So this was really wonderful. So clearly there are a number of intersection points for this event. Open source is a major uh, imperative for even our engineers to be able to express themselves, also to be able to learn. Just remember the days of learning from textbooks is gone and you can only learn so much from YouTube. It's actually engaging in open source projects that gets most engineers in very early start even before they've graduated. So it's really, really very important. So this partnership with Linux Foundation with, on the cloud native pieces, it's very, very important to all of us. The accelerator for NetApp too. We don't really make investments of hard investments in these companies and we're not looking to become part owners of them. We do engage them with our M&A teams and other venture capitalists if they need. But our motivation over there really is around innovation. It's around fostering innovation in our community. So this event is also a part of that. And so I just want to thank the Equinox team also for kind of helping lead this kind of an initiative. We are happy to do many more of these. So if some of you are outside of Equinox and want to do it, reach out to Hema, reach out to Naveen, who manage our accelerator. We're happy to kind of go do more things like this. I'll spend a little bit of time spending time on, why this particular domain is important to us. And I want to start at the topmost level at where we talk about our mission, such to speak. We clearly see ourselves as helping customers change the world based on data. People have been talking about data as the big next oil, data is this, data is that. It's clearly now very well acknowledged that data is driving a large amount of change in the world. Okay. And our thinking around how you need to manage and evolve data is also changing. So I'll kind of just walk through that in a few steps. Title is Intelligent Data Infrastructure. It's kind of given we are hosting you, it's our one moment to kind of talk to you about what NetApp does in this world. Yeah. Okay. So that's the campus you all are at. Very warm welcome and hope you all had a. Today was an easy day coming in, I'll tell you that. Most days it's not that easy unless you're taking the metro. And this is an old picture because you don't see metro there. We're going to change that next time. Yeah. I'll give you a sense for context, right? When we speak to customers, when we speak to the industry at large, when we speak about what it is that we have an expertise in, we clearly talk about what's happening in the world out there. Apps and infra is being modernized. I mean, the way apps were being built 10 years ago is not the way they're being built now. Almost every company that sells infrastructure or sells application services, even if they are cloud services, most of the large ones have been around for about 20 to 30 years. They were born in the client server world, right? Not even in the internet world, definitely not in the world that we are looking at today. Okay. But they are all being forced to change. And the change really is that businesses are becoming a lot more agile. And the app and infrastructure from 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, is not going to cut it. The second part is that while you're trying to make all those changes, the fact is most businesses have a lot of legacy systems. Even if you're the world's most innovative fintech born 6 months ago, at the time when you engage with a large bank in India, you're going to deal with customers that are legacy in their mindset. Okay. So you do carry a lot of baggage that you'll see it with the people you work with the customers you're engaged with, even however agile you might be, you're going to see some of that. These tend to be challenges. The third, which is really very, very real now, and what surprised me was this company called Okta that got breached. I mean, think about it. Their identity management, and they were like pretty much up there and get breached. It kind of makes you think, okay? But cyber threats are a business. We need to understand that. It may be a very dark and ugly business, but it is a business. And so there's a lot of focus around building infrastructure that does that. Fourthly, it's talent shortages. It's like if you're looking at people that understand data, and I can tell you, this is not high flying stuff. We were at an accelerator event, and you can get the sense that innovation in India, right? It's at a it operates at a very grassroots level. So where's Naveen? I think Naveen and I, we were talking to these two brothers, right? Very typical Indian Ajay Vijay types, both of them, and but very very dynamic guys. Okay, they are very very clear. They were going to basically use technology to make a lot of money by being able to sell financial services to common people. Okay, and their idea of transformation was it's not enough that I should be able to call people, which is what their business was. So you can blame them for spamming you if they call you now. But their interest was basically training people in your community that can educate you and then as a result increase your financial participation and generate revenue from that. So that model was fantastic. But for them to be able to understand that it is an understanding of data that can help you amplify business. These were Bombay guys. We were in Bombay, right? The conversation was if the guy in Ghatkopar is having tremendous amount of success selling something, do you know why? Okay, and forget even if you don't know why. Can you share it with the guy in Tardeo? Right? So he can probably do what that person is doing, or figure he's got a formula, or figure that have you thought of going back to the bank and saying that I have engaged with 30 of these people and they all do better today than they do 3 months ago because I showed them how to succeed and I did it based on data. So you have to think of data at that level, right? So the skill is not just somebody that understands Python, has 4 years worth of experience doing large scale data science algorithms. It's also just how you think of the business opportunity and put data at its core. And finally, this thing has to be simple, right? So this is largely kind of the principles that drive NetApp in terms of kind of how we want to serve our customers. We're now very, very clear data-driven businesses and businesses that are AI ready are growing faster than anyone else. This was a true statement before the whole hype around ChatGPT and generative AI. It is going to become even more true. There's real evidence backing that up. This is a survey that was conducted by Boston Consulting Group with Google. They were looking at a bunch of metrics, a number of questions. The data over here is when you look at companies that have shown the ability to grow revenue by more than 10%, it's a very humble, down to earth metric. Are you able to grow your business? Right? And then you kind of segment it and say, how many of you are data driven? How many of you are not? If you are forward thinking about data, a lot more of you have grown business greater than 10% than if you are not. So there is a clear difference, and this difference is a lot different than it was 2 years ago. And you can be assured it's going to actually disrupt businesses in the next year or two. What does it mean to be data driven and to be AI ready? One, it requires a cohesive data strategy. And I think that's going to hit this community really, really hard also. It is going to hit anybody that did traditional data science, including our teams that build massive data lakes internally. Okay. The traditional approach has always been that we have these large data sets and we'll make magic happen. The reality is more that experimentation is happening in pockets. You're doing very rapid experimentation, short pilots. The reality also is most of those pilots are going nowhere. So the trick is not that you do a large data set and it'll work for you or a data lake. The trick is not that you do pilots and they'll go nowhere. The point is you have to do both. You have to do rapid experimentation and then you have to land it into a production system. And then you have to continue to iterate that way. You fundamentally have to think about data very differently. So you'll see NetApp talk about how you have to think about data very differently over the next year or so as we're kind of propagating this. At its core is this mindset that you have to think of data as the product. What do I mean by that? Even today at NetApp, we're in the midst of changing 4 major systems: our ERP system, our CRM system, our customer quoting system, and a few others. There are 4 systems that are being changed. And when we think of data, we think of data locked into that system, or we think of data as locked into that application. But the world is changing because, see, the algorithms are changing. The algorithms are changing. The data that is being consumed by the algorithms are changing. So having your data locked in one format, sitting in one place, isn't going to work. Pulling it out from where it is, sticking it into a data warehouse, probably not going to work. The reason we are so excited about it is because you look at more than 90% of the world's unstructured data is touching a NetApp system somewhere or the other, right? And if that's going to feed these algorithms, we feel we're in a very great place. It's just incredibly complex to deal with it. So getting simplicity around that, you looking at data as a product, looking at data with a very clear cohesive strategy is going to be very, very important. And people are going to spend a lot more time on data architecture now. So I think that's going to have a lot of bearing on this community and as how you see problems evolving over the next year or two. Yeah. So clearly we've got a lot of success. If you've looked at it, when you think of data having multiple sources, you think of applications being deployed across multiple clouds, or even on, moving, you talk about experimentation. Often experimentation happens in the cloud. Then you start developing massive scale and you realize you might as well own the infrastructure. It comes into your data center. So this notion of hybrid multi-cloud is something NetApp's been at for now about 4 or 5 years in a very, very significant way. So clearly there are strengths that we are building upon. And the story that you're going to hear today, amongst all of you, not just our story, the stories you all are also going to tell, when you talk about these technologies that are basically creating a degree of independence from the infrastructure, as you think about Kubernetes, you are going to, this become even more significant when you start looking at multiple deployment points, multiple clouds. You can't be having things siloed. So this is a data point. There's a source in small print out there, and if the slides are being shared, you'll be able to click on them. But Gartner talks about this. 90% of organizations will be running containerized applications in another 3 years. Okay? True fact. That's an astounding number. I mean, it just means that if you're running applications, they're going to be containerized. Says a lot for kind of the promise of the kind of tech you all are all interested in, that we are all interested in. Okay. Another quote over here from IDC. They're talking about a whole shift in containerization. In 3 years, 80% of workloads. So the numbers, 80%, 90%, these are massive numbers, okay? Basically, you have to start asking yourselves if you're not doing it, maybe you have a really good reason to not do it, but you're in a minority, correct? The second point is that it reduces the infrastructure needs that you have for your applications in a very significant way. Why is it important that you should be able to reduce your infrastructure needs? because infrastructure costs. It costs money, it costs effort, time, it creates complexity, it also costs the environment. It's a resource that we spend on something that, look at the scale at which IT investment is growing. Sustainability has become a pretty big thing. So you have to understand there's a very strong desire out there that this is the kind of technology that can drive real change too in that area. Okay. Also, there's a stat around improving digital resiliency. Okay. It just makes things fundamentally a lot easier to be able to build out. You have a degree of flexibility when you deploy in a containerized world that you do not if you're doing it on bare metal, that you do not even if you're doing it on a virtualized environment. It becomes very complex to manage. Okay. So with that, um, this clicker may need some battery. Data management. So I just want to kind of weigh in. Okay. So welcome to NetApp today. I think our perspective on this topic very clearly, data management for business critical Kubernetes workloads cannot be an afterthought. I think a number of you are going to be sitting here talking about things, engaging in discussions over the breaks, etc., around how you all can accelerate the pace and kind of drive real change here, right? So very welcome, warm welcome to all of you at NetApp again. And with that, let me hand over to Arvind.